The Boston Celtics are in some serious trouble, and I'm not sure their situation has any solution in the near future. The problem with the Celtics goes back farther than just 7 games. It goes back farther than even last year when they were one of the most inconsistent teams in the NBA. It goes back even farther than that. It goes all the way back to when they traded Isaiah Thomas for Kyrie Irving. It goes back to culture. I'm sure you all remember the huge trade for Kyrie Irving paired with Gordon Hayward signing with the team. Hometown hero Isaiah Thomas, who'd played through injury, through the death of his sister, traded away like it was nothing for another player to make the team better. This was the beginning of the end for the Boston Celtics. It was a combination of quotes, roster construction, and the area of Boston that started the organizational culture problem that has snowballed to today. As I said earlier, it started with the trade of Isaiah Thomas, who had literally poured his blood, sweat, and tears into this Boston Celtics team and organization. He overcame all odds to become a 30-point per game scorer and be the heart of a playoff team, a real leader. And amid playing through injuries and the death of his sister, he was traded for Kyrie Irving, who simply just wanted his own team outside of the shadow of LeBron. On paper, this is very clearly an upgrade. Kyrie still to this day is one of the most talented scorers in basketball. But one thing that not a lot of people considered was the fact that he was not a leader. He was in his mid-20s, and despite being a big part in a championship team, he was immature as a basketball player. Having your own team requires more than just being the best player or taking the most shots or playing the most minutes. It requires connecting with your teammates, the organization, and the community. Kyrie was already an oddball, that possibly being part of the reason why he wanted out of Cleveland. So needless to say, replacing Isaiah Thomas with Kyrie and Hayward very much changed the culture around the team. Not to mention, Kelly Olynyk, Avery Bradley, Amir Johnson, and others also left the team. It was a completely new roster, one without a clear leader or a true leader. Kyrie then only played 60 games, and Hayward played 5 minutes of 1 the first year. And Jayson Tatum and company were 1 game away from the NBA Finals meanwhile, building chemistry between all the young players without the presence of either of the main guys. So the very next year, you insert a ball-dominant player in Kyrie, and Hayward, who was clearly still recovering, and somehow it just doesn't work. They still win 49 games, but there is media coming out all season about turmoil in the locker room. Circling back to not having a leader, there's a quote from Kyrie. Right now, I think it would be nice if we had someone that was a 15-year vet, 14-year vet, that could just help us race along the regular season and help us understand that it's a long marathon rather than just a full-on sprint of when you want to play, when you want to do what you want to do. It's all about attitude and effort. That's all it is. This was one of the biggest reasons for the failure of that Celtics team, and it is most definitely the biggest reason for the failure of this team today. Jayson Tatum has grown into one of the best players in the league at only 23 years old, and has a co-star who only seems to get better every year in Jaylen Brown. But despite having all the talent in the world, neither of them are leaders on the floor or in the locker room. Only one player on this roster is above 30, and that's Al Horford. Once again, the Celtics find themselves built around someone in their early 20s who is not a leader. There have been some murmurs of Tatum being a Kobe type, meaning he wants to take the most shots, he wants to be the best player on the team, he wants it to be all about him. Brown had 10 points in 2 minutes against Chicago, and when they called the timeout, Tatum didn't even acknowledge him. He's not a team player at all. It's this me-first attitude that's going to continue to be the detriment of the Boston Celtics. Marcus Smart even came out with a quote saying, "I think everybody's scouting report is to make Jayson and Jaylen try to pass the ball. They don't want to pass the ball, and that's something that they're going to learn." Yes, I'm aware. Marcus Smart is shooting 25% from the field and 23% from 3 or something like that. But his point still remains true. While Tatum has developed as a playmaker, he can be hesitant to pass. Same with Brown. They feel like they have to carry the load, and they aren't surrounded by any veterans who've won anything meaningful. Schroeder isn't exactly a team guy, and Robert Williams, Grant Williams, Romeo Langford, and the rest are still trying to find their place in the league. This team needs a serious veteran who isn't going to tolerate this me thing going on in Boston. I'm not around the team, nor am I close to anyone who is, but I don't think you need to be to see all of that bleed out onto the court. Until Tatum swallows this mentality and his ego, until these guys truly connect and embrace each other as brothers on this team, until Tatum proves he deserves to be respected as a leader, this team is going to fail. Hopefully they can pull it together, but we have a decent track record that says otherwise. Talent isn't enough to be a good basketball team, and I think you've seen that countless times in history before. There needs to be a serious culture overhaul in Boston before anything else, and I think things are going to get worse before they get better. If you enjoyed the video, consider leaving a like and subscribing to the channel. I'd greatly appreciate it. If you didn't like it, leave a dislike. And y'all, have a good one.